Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is a masterclass in editing, screenwriting, and directing. Charlie Kaufman's script, combined with Michel Gondry's directing, make it one of the most imaginative, most incredible films of the 21st century. The film is about a man named Joel Barish who meets a woman named Clementine Kruczynski, and they end up forming a bond that becomes romantic. But then Clementine ends up erasing Joel from his memory from a company called Lacuna. Overcome with guilt and sadness, Joel decides to do the same procedure and in the process realizes that he may not have wanted to do the procedure at all. I don't want to spoil the rest of the movie because the film is a masterpiece, but what I want to talk about today is exactly how this movie got made, and specifically talk about the director, Michel Gondry, and his background in music videos and commercials. One of the reasons why I'm making this video is because his new film Atlantis was announced, which marks his 10th film in the industry. And I want to look back at his career and just talk about all the visual things he has done before he became a feature filmmaker. The main question of this video is basically just to say, how did Michel Gondry's music videos and commercials influence his later work? Well, the thing about music videos is that they're not like films where you can take the time to polish it up and then release it. Music videos can't take that long to produce because record labels have to make the video in time with the song so that when it's released, it works as a marketing tool. But Michel Gondry and other directors like Spike Jonze and Chris Cunningham look at music videos not just as promotional tools, but also as ways to experiment and ways to make art. And since you have a very limited time to make a music video, you have to think of really creative ideas in a short amount of time, and when you have a creative genius like Gondry, you get music videos that are incredibly unique and interesting. But why does Gondry think this way? Gondry said in an interview, "In general, I try to pick from my own dreams and my own imagination. You see so many directors surrounded by pictures, books of photographs, and paintings. I don't try to get inspiration from existing forms of art that are completed, and forms of art too similar to filmmaking. I don't like that. I think if you think of an image, you must think of what's inside that image, otherwise the surface of the image will be the only result. It's the function of the image." Basically, this is saying that he wants to be as original as possible, and his films and music videos really do reflect that. And this has also led to the creation of many techniques in film that is still used today. In fact, Gondry is technically the inventor of bullet time. He used it in a Smirnoff vodka commercial in 1996, 3 years before the Wachowskis did it in The Matrix. And on top of that, his drugstore commercial for Levi's holds the Guinness World Record for most awarded commercial of all time. And these big techniques all go back to his first videos as well, when he was with the band Wee Wee as the drummer, but also as the music video creator. And the surrealism and techniques in his videos are not just for flashiness or artsiness. There's a clear storyline and symbolism behind each frame. Bjork said in an interview about the music video for Army of Me, "When Michel gets his strokes of genius and, in the video for Army of Me, wants a dentist that's a gorilla to find a diamond in my mouth, some people call it nonsense, but it's probably the most realistic way of expressing what situation I'm in. All these people trying to take things away from me, and the gorilla finding a diamond that I don't know I have and then stealing it. Army of Me is so much about me actually learning that I have to defend myself. I have to stand up and fight the gorilla. Once I've got the diamond and I run away with it, it becomes massive because it's mine, but if the gorilla had kept it, it would have gone really tiny. That's surrealism for me." And this is what I like about Michel Gondry so much, is that he is not afraid to try things in a unique way, and he will do things in a very surrealist, almost childlike way. And childlike is a great word to describe him because he even made a documentary called I've Been 12 Forever, and that documentary really gives a lot of insight into who he is as a person and how he thinks of certain ideas. Kind of like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. An interesting thing you should know about Eternal Sunshine is that the idea came from Gondry and his friend Pierre Bismuth, when Bismuth mentioned that he had a friend who hated her boyfriend and wanted him to be erased from her memory. When watching Eternal Sunshine and watching his commercials, music videos, and short films, one thing I noticed is that Eternal Sunshine heavily borrows from the camera style that Michel Gondry does in his music videos. It's a very handheld, almost documentary aesthetic. But what I like about this style is that it makes the film feel more real, as in it makes all the effects work feel more authentic. and less cleaner, if you know what I mean. In an age where we see so much digital cleanliness, Gondry adds this practical touch that makes the film feel more authentic and more real.
It's transition where like how you go from one memory to another and how you express that the memory is disappearing without doing post-production effect, but mostly in camera.
That doesn't mean that this movie is entirely made with practical effects. There is still some CGI in the film here and there, like this shot of the car falling down, and if you look closely, you'll see that Clementine's leg is removed. And that's another thing that makes Michel's work so memorable, is that it requires you to watch it a second time. To go back to his music videos, his Star Guitar video for the Chemical Brothers and his Around the World video for Daft Punk are two videos that the first time I saw, I didn't quite fully understand, but then the second time I saw them, I realized what I was missing. And the final thing I want to talk about is that all of his work, his commercials, music videos, short films, and films like Eternal Sunshine have stood the test of time. There are several videos online explaining the intricacies of this film, and it just shows how much of a classic this movie is. And that's the thing about his commercials and music videos, is that we don't see anything like them anymore. All of his music videos have stood the test of time, and his commercials are just incredibly well done. And the sad part is that Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is really the only movie that he's remembered for. Most people don't know that this isn't the first time Charlie Kaufman and him collaborated. Their first collaboration was in 2001 with a movie called Human Nature, which has been largely forgotten about today. In fact, a lot of his movies are forgotten about. The Science of Sleep is the movie that he made directly after Eternal Sunshine, and even though I think the movie is pretty good, not a lot of people talk about it. It doesn't even have a Blu-ray release. His other films like Be Kind Rewind, Mood Indigo, and The Green Hornet have all been largely forgotten about. And you could say that this is because they're not as good as Eternal Sunshine, but they're still really interesting, really cool films. But despite this, Gondry will always be known for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, one of the greatest films of all time.